I was in the astronaut office for a decade before my first flight. Everybody my age had to wait about 8 to 12 years to fly for a lot of reasons. So I thought I knew everything there was to know about space. But, the first view I had of Earth flying into this first sunrise, I saw this blue horizon, and I remember thinking, I've never seen that shade of blue before. That blew me away. I didn't expect that thought to happen, but it was my first thought of Earth. After a few days, one of my crewmates said, "Hey, Terry, tap your foot on the ground." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I tapped my foot on the floor and got electrocuted. I had this electric shock through my body. And I was like, what is that? And then, I had these muscle problems. I thought my muscles were ripping. I get back and I talked to one of the doctors and they said, yeah, some guys have this where when you grow, you stretch. I grew a couple inches and your muscles and your nerves grow at a different rate. So the nerves get pulled through your muscles differently. And some astronauts report this. I had never heard that. After a decade, no one had ever told me that. And then he said, yeah, in fact, one of the guys is still numb. He's been back a couple years and he still can't feel his legs. I'm like, I wish they would have told me that. That's nice to know, minor detail. Just this week, 20 years after showing up to NASA, years after my final space flight, my neighbor who's an astronaut, we're talking and he said, my biome changed after space. Like my gut and my stomach just isn't the same as it was before. And I'm like, neither is mine. My stomach hasn't been the same for years. And he said, yeah, I was talking to a couple other super senior astronauts. They were all saying the same thing, that, yeah, my biome changed in space. And there's actually some experiments called microbiome, and they test just the little bacteria and stuff that live inside your gut. And it changes in space. I had just never heard that it was a permanent change. And he said, yeah, I talked to the flight docs and they said, it's fine, it'll get better. No one's studying it or anything like that. And this is something that I've noticed, and then now that we're talking amongst ourselves. So there's a lot of weird things about flying in space that potentially have long-lasting implications, and who knows. Yeah, I actually grew a couple inches because right now, gravity's pushing me down. But everybody grows in space. It's usually 1 or 2, maybe 3 inches, a few centimeters. It's great. I was finally 6 feet for the first time in my life. But within a couple hours of getting back to Earth, I was back to 5'10".